The reason that the video probably doesn't well is because of the intros of the videos. So a lot of people call it the hook, but more often than not, it's just the hook is too long, it's too confusing, or it's too niched.
Aaron, I appreciate having you here on the show. You're with Closers.io. Cole Gordon's your partner. I don't know who else gets the same ads as me, but there was like a 14-month period where every time I opened a device, it was Cole Gordon.
Anytime I'm connecting with someone on Instagram, on Facebook, or any of the platforms that allow voice messages, is I always start with a voice message. People get emails all the time, they get DMs all the time, but in a world of like just automation and all that kind of stuff, is like people just assume it to be automated, right? They just don't think that anything's real anymore.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
So what's happening, man? What were you saying about the algorithm? Because that sounded fun.
Dude, so here's the biggest misconception when it comes to social media. And this is Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all these platforms. Is a lot of people, what they do is they see everyone posting on social media and they're like, yo, I got to get on that bandwagon. I got to start posting. And they'll post 10 times and 15 times, 20 times. And then they start blaming the algorithm as it's like this overall being that just wants to stifle the heck out of their content. But it honestly has nothing to do with the algorithm 99.9% of the time.
Nothing to do with the algorithm, basically all the time. Well, what's it have to do with? Is having good content?
I mean, so that's kind of the easy cop-out answer, right? It's like if someone comes to me and they're like, why isn't my content growing? And it's like, because the content's not good. Like that's the easy way to put it. You know, I think it's very dependent based on each platform, right? Like TikTok is going to be very different from Instagram, from YouTube. I think the biggest thing that I would say is, if I was to give an example for each one, right? YouTube, it's usually because, well, let me just give an overall answer. The reason that the video probably doesn't do well is because of the intros of the videos. So a lot of people call it the hook, right? Whether it's Instagram, all these platforms. Because on YouTube, you have a little bit more leniency, right? You can get away with not getting to the point as quickly. But more often than not, it's just the hook is too long, it's too confusing, or it's too niched. Those are like the three main issues that I see when people aren't able to see success on social.
So too long, I get it. Too confusing, of course. If the message is unclear, it's not clear. Too niche, people say to niche down. Too niche.
Yes. So let me. I'll reframe it a little bit.
Sure.
So I think too niche is good, right? Or too niche is okay. I think the problem with niching down, and there's that, like even the word niche, right? Like there's a bunch of different words for it. But if we were to give an example, right? Let's say someone has a real estate agent course, right? It's a real estate person teaching other real estate agents how to see success, right? If they put out a video that's like just super niche specific on like, let's say it's about a specific software's problems, right? A specific software that a real estate agent uses. That is so specific that someone that's scrolling through social media on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube, is if they aren't dealing with that specific problem, the video is not gonna blow up, right? Because these platforms aren't going to, they're gonna push your content, but if this initial audience that's coming to the video doesn't enjoy it or doesn't relate with it or whatever, it's not gonna blow up. So what I usually recommend for people is like, that type of content's okay. Just set the expectation that it's probably not gonna get 1 million views. But the ones that are gonna get more views and, go quote unquote more viral is the ones that are just more broad and appeal to a larger audience. So for example, a better video would be like, as generic as it is, right? On the opposite side of the spectrum, here's how to hit your first $100,000 year as a real estate agent, right? Any real estate agent that sees that, or for the majority of them, right? It's going to attract them, and then they can go through the content and see if it's something that they actually agree with or can actually help them.
So in a scenario like that, I'm in Rochester, New York, and I might service real estate agents with marketing services. And somewhere in the tail end, or maybe the link in the bio, maybe let's say right in the video, I mentioned I service Rochester, New York. But since the hook was more generalized, I was able to get a better critical mass than if I said, hey, Rochester, New York agent.
Yep, exactly. So, and it's, and the caveat to that too is like the video can be specific, right? But just the hook, in order to grab the attention of the masses, like you said, is it just needs to be a little bit more broad. Now, on the caveat or on the opposite side, right? Let's say you only want to attract people in the Rochester area, is you can do that, right? You can start it off with there. It's obviously going to disqualify a lot of other people. It's just going to be less volume, which again, depending on expectations and your end goal, it's not always a bad thing.
Dude, so I just smashed record because I wanted to dive in, but some of the listeners might be like, who is this guy? Why should I listen to him in the first place? Aaron Martinez. Aaron, I appreciate having you here on the show. You're with closers.io. Cole Gordon's your partner. I don't know who else gets the same ads as me, but there was like a 14-month period where every time I opened a device, it was Cole Gordon. Is that normal? Was that what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, man, that was the goal and still is the goal. I think the thing now is we have a ton of different faces on the ads. So like I'm in a lot of the ads, Cole's on a lot of the ads. We have about, I don't know, 7 or 8 different spokespeople. So it's like we've kind of diversified and we'll get different like faces just so that number one, so Cole doesn't have to do all the ads, and number two, just so we can get different, different segments of the market. But yeah, it was very, very intentional.
It was all over the place. And I mean, now you're partnered with what? Dean Graziosi, Jay Abraham, Frank Kern. So I probably have seen some of those as well, I can imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So we were able to build the company from zero to in 2020. What was last year? 2023. We did just under 50 million in sales. And Dean Graziosi, and a lot of the companies that you mentioned are just a handful of the couple thousand coaches, agencies, course creators that we've been able to help them to scale through sales systems, and also really as we've grown as a business, it's like we've learned so many different things in between in terms of finance, in terms of operations, in terms of sales, of course, in terms of scaling and everything that comes with that. So it's kind of just been we're almost like the test dummies in a way. And we prove the system, and then we teach others to do the same. But the very important part here is that we are still actively doing what we're teaching other people to do, right? I think the coaching space gets a kind of a negative rap these days, especially with you see coaches, they'll do something for a season and they'll create a course around that thing and then stop doing the thing that they taught, or the stop doing the thing that they're teaching, and then it just becomes this like echo chamber of bad advice that doesn't work anymore. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump on a soapbox. I have a good friend. I don't know if he listens or not. I'm trying to talk him out of it, but he's in a business where it's education products to sell people how to be affiliate marketers. And basically you take it's a white labeled course. You're selling the course. And truly the only way to make money is just to resell that same course. I'm going to sell you a course on how to be an affiliate marketer. You're going to take it and then you're going to start reselling it, but no one's actually making money as affiliate marketers. They're making money as an affiliate marketer selling this course that to me, it's like a pyramid MLM. And there's a lot of that stuff. Am I wrong that there's a lot of that stuff in the coaching or the education industry?
No, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I was, the word that came to mind was MLM pyramid, right? I think the immediate red flag is if the way that you're making money is by selling the vehicle, selling the vehicle as your product and making commissions on that, that's when it starts to get dicey. Yeah.
I only bring it up because I like that you guys are an example that you're doing what you preach on a day-to-day basis. But let's take a step back, because I know you didn't do it overnight, and I like the story behind the story, so you can take your time if you'd like. But what was stage 0? Like, what did the first month look like? Where'd the idea come from? Was your nose bleeding? Like, what did it look like when you got started?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be 100% transparent. I wasn't, a part of Closer.io from the very beginning. Cool. But just to tell Cole's story, I mean, he comes from a couple different sales organizations, and him being able to become really good at sales and see this bottleneck within the coaching industry of no one's really doing sales in the right way. He kind of created his own product around that, left his previous company, started closers.io, and he was able to build it pretty quickly just because at the time, this was 2020, is no one was really like I said, no one was really doing sales in the right way. So when he created the course around it, a lot of people in the coaching space just came and they're like, that's our biggest bottleneck. Like, we don't have a problem with generating leads. We don't have a problem with fulfilling the clients. It's like, how do we just convert more leads into clients, right? So, that's the first iteration of it. And then, I came on board and I started helping, with the ad content, with, my superpower is like content, organic content, YouTube, Instagram, things like that. And, when I partnered with him, it was kind of just like, how do we just like add more fuel to the fire here and get in front of more people? So, now we're able to, through building out the different proofs of concept, is now we also teach how to do the organic side and build it up there. So, yeah, I'd have to get Cole on here to give you more of an in-depth thing for the company side of it. But yeah.
Don't worry about it. I want in-depth Aaron. So you come into a system that's already built. It's a foundation. It works. What's your first role? Like, how do you get dirty right off the bat?
Yeah. Yeah. So the biggest thing that I came in to do, like my superpower since I was going to point at, I moved my 100,000 subscriber play button. But yeah, YouTube has been just the thing that I've done since I was 12, like 11, 12. I was uploading my first YouTube videos. I'm 29 now. So whatever that math is.
What kind of videos are those, bro?
Gaming videos. I used to be into magic tricks. So it was funny. I was talking with one of our partners, and we were just showing each other, like nerding out about like 12 years ago, 17 years ago, we were making videos. But yeah, just that's kind of where it started, is just being consistent as basically a kid. And then, I just loved the idea of being in front of the camera, and I got good at it. So I was able to monetize that. But yeah, really the goal with coming into the company was like, how do we basically generate leads for free, right, through organic content, and just help the P&L look better. That was like the main goal behind it. So when I first came in, I was like, okay, cool. Let's just build out a YouTube channel for Cole. And then I'm going to build out my own YouTube channel and basically build a brand within the company, for our B2C company was the name of the game.
So the paid clearly was working. I was seeing it work. What talk about organic? A lot of people, I want to just take a step back. Like, I'm a firm believer of, the patient is gonna assess the I'm sorry, I'm all over the place today. The doctor is gonna assess the patient.
Yeah.
So we don't really have the patient in front of us. We don't have the business or the creator in front of us. But assume someone's just running a ton of paid content. They're actually not really getting an ROI. They don't really know what they're doing. And then they hear organic and they're like, this seems like a good fit. But where should they start with organic? Should they stop doing paid, or should they keep doing that and start to, you tell me.
Yeah, dude, that's a great question. And it's actually a situation we see a lot of people coming in. So I'll actually touch on both sides, because I really don't think there is right? It's an and. Yeah. It's like, how do we run paid advertising, but also use organic as a means to just bring in more units, bring in more cash, bring in more sales. So I do think that paid advertising is like, if someone is starting brand new right now and they have a little bit of a budget, right? They had, and little bit could be defined as like, $500 to $1,000 a month, right, of extra money to put into advertising. I say start with ads, right? Facebook ads, YouTube ads, because what it does is it allows you to validate way quicker, right? Organic is just, I don't care what people tell you, is they can say like, you can have one video that goes viral and it builds the business. It's not as predictable, for lack of a better word. So it's like, if you're just starting out, validate the product, validate your systems through paid. And then what that also allows you to do is get good at learning your sales process. Because if you don't understand sales and you don't understand conversion, you can be generating a ton of leads from organic, but they're still not going to convert because you don't understand how to convert a viewer or a person into a sale. So when you start with ads, though, this is like ice cold traffic. They don't know who you are. They don't they just saw an ad on their, like you said, right? They saw an ad on Facebook or TikTok or whatever. So they don't really know who you are. So it's like, and especially in the market now, it's like everyone gets ads. Everyone's talking to the camera. Hey, buy this thing. This is the best way to XYZ. No, don't do that. Do this thing instead. So if you can validate cold, you're going to win, right? So then that starts to validate the product, validate your sales process. And then the secret to it is once you're bringing in cash, once you're able to bring in cash, then build a team, build fulfillment, build a sales team, then you start doing organic. Not only do you have capital to build an actual content team, so you're not editing videos, uploading videos, doing all stuff yourself. And the hack that I really believe is understanding sales and organic, because organic content is they're finding you organically, they're following you organically, and if someone watches an hour-long YouTube video of yours, like they're basically sold. And when they get on the call with you, you already understand how to convert that person into a client. And it's like 99% easier than through cold traffic, because you've already gotten past the hump of the trust through organic content. So I think that was kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah, I think start with paid if you have the budget for it. If you don't have the budget for it and just want to start organic, that's fine. Just set the expectation that it's probably going to take a little bit longer to build that.
No, it's a great answer. And you mentioned a lot of times, like understanding sales, like why is the foundation of understanding sales so important in marketing in this scenario? Are they not two separate things?
I think it's like all sales is, all marketing is being able to sell with videos, with copywriting is another good example. So I think they definitely exist together. I'm sorry, what was the question on that? Well, like how do you sell via those?
Yeah, channels? I think I asked you kind of a double barrel question. Yeah. So the first is, and let me just take a step back. So a lot of people see marketing and sales as like silos. They're two separate things entirely, but you're treating marketing with a sales foundation and a sales background. Why do you feel like they shouldn't be siloed and they're actually partnered? They're like PB&J.
Yeah, great question. So the way that I would position that is through marketing, right? And when I say marketing, I'm talking about copywriting, ads, things like that. Is if you're good at sales, and I think that honestly, like Cole is a great marketer, is because he understood sales before he got to the marketing stuff. So he was kind of doing both at the same time. So when you understand sales and you understand the language of sales and the psychology of sales and how all that works, is that will start to bleed into the sales understanding will bleed into the content part. And when you're good at that in the advertising, you do, again, 90% or in the videos or whatever, you do so much of the heavy lifting on the marketing. So if you look at good marketing versus bad marketing, good marketing, you're going to get on a phone call with someone, they're already going to be sold, and you just have to get over some of those like uncertainty things, like can they actually do it, a lot of mindset. If you're bad at sales, the copy really isn't going to do anything. They're going to be ice cold on the sales call, and you're going to do so much heavy lifting on that call that it just makes it really difficult for yourself. So a really good book that I recommend anyone starting with, it's kind of old school, but Breakthrough Advertising. Super old school. Everyone that's that jumps into a new business or whatever, I always recommend that. And then obviously Alex Hormozy's books are some pretty good ones on on just the initial parts of marketing and generating leads and things like that.
I find there's like 50 different sales methods, and there's consultative, very question based. I've seen sales trainers literally so detached from outcome that they act like a lost child. Like, oh, are you the business owner? Oh yeah, I did. And then I know conviction based salespeople that are like, I'm super excited. I felt the same way back in the day. Like you don't feel the same way as me. So it's like when you say understand sales, well, I'm getting a lot of different sales messages and a lot of theories. I mean, I'm not going to ask you what the right one is, but what kind of methodology do you subscribe by?
Yeah, I think for me specifically is I think for me, like in my own experience, I love the consultative way of selling. And I think the way, like what people identify as, and when it comes to their sales methods, I think very much so has to do with their personalities, right? So someone like what's his name? Grant Cardone's like an easy example, but it's like Grant Cardone, his personality, right? He's just like very type A, very straight to the point. It's like his type of personality is like he's the hardcore, like you need this thing, very like door to door.
Where's
like
my
used
money at? Who's got
cars.
my money? Who's got my money?
Exactly. It's like,
You got my money? You don't got my money? I'll find someone who has my money.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like the example I always give is like the used car salesman, right? It's like used car salesmen get a bad rep, but that's kind of that side of things. Me personally, it's like I love like having conversations with people. I think what's it called? Like the Myers-Briggs test is like I definitely skew more towards less type A, like D personality, like high D personality, more like I like inquisitive, like creative. I love like meeting new people, and I just kind of feel bad jumping on a sales call with someone. I'm like, here's why you need this, and like almost like bullying people in the sale. And I think what I found just through the thousands of clients that we've worked with is that like middle of the road way of selling, of like asking questions, like the consultative sale, kind of like you mentioned, the doctor patient analogy, right? It's like I want to like ask the person what their problems are, and by asking those questions, building rapport, and by building rapport, making the sale easier. But the very important distinction is doing like helping the prospect understand why they need to do it for their reasons, not for my reasons. Right. And like just from the basic nature of doing that is you build a lot of trust, and then they don't feel pushed into doing something. They feel motivated to work with you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they feel motivated. You're partnering. It's not a pushy sale. It's more of a partnership. It's easygoing. You could take it or leave it. But we talked about like marketing, and people get a lot of leads. Maybe their problem isn't getting leads, and they're running ads and creating organic content, and they're hooking a lot of people, but they're not closing them. And I even think you mentioned consultative selling. So what if I ask great questions? I build great rapport, not like woo woo, we're best friends rapport, but I understand your problem. We're on the same page. Do people just have a fear of asking for the sale, or why does the close not occur? You would think it would just happen naturally, but it doesn't. What's the problem there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is it's you? If I look at like, because I've reviewed thousands of sales calls at this point, and the number one thing that I would say is it's just people not asking for the sale, and not even from a standpoint of like, it's even almost before asking for the sales. Like they don't even like ask for the person to like move forward with them, right? I'm trying to come up with an analogy, but then nothing's coming in my head. But it's like, they're on the call, they go through the whole conversation, and they'll drop the price. They'll say, hey, to work with us for the next X amount of time, it's $5,000, right? And the person like will immediately say, well, I need to go think about it. And the salesperson turns off, and they're like, okay, let's set up a follow-up call. And like at that point, you're not really like a closer. You're not a salesperson. You're just like there to talk to someone. You know what I mean? So I think just the biggest or not even misconception, but just the biggest mistake is just them not taking that next step of like, okay, you need to think about it. Help me understand, John. A second ago, you said you were, on a scale from 1 to 10, you're a 10. You really want to do this. I guess I'm just curious, like, what do you think has changed in the last couple of minutes? And it's like having that conversation, and a lot of times it's again like it's just the person is a little bit scared, right? And they're just on the edge. They're nervous. They've tried some of this stuff in the past, and as long as you've done your job through the sales call and asked the right questions, and all of that, is a lot of times you just learning more about what they're thinking about in that I need to think about it, and then putting information that they already told you back in front of them is all they need to be like, well, you're right. Let's do it. Let's move forward. And that's, I think, just people don't ask as much as they need to.
Can we role play? You down for it?
Yeah.
I know I'm catching you off guard by asking, but we'll choose we'll choose a product you're already comfortable with. So, what's a product that you or one of your clients sell?
So let's do. I mean, probably the best would be sales consulting, or sales consulting, business growth.
Okay, so business growth. I'm at 6 figures. I'm trying to get to 7.
Okay,
and I want to think about it because I just don't have the funds at this time. The holidays just passed. It's Q1. Wasn't my best Q1.
Okay, 6 figures a year, 6 figures a month.
What would you prefer? I'd love if it was a month, but I was.
Well, I mean, see, so that's kind of the hard part. Obviously we can do some role playing, but the hard part is a lot of objection handling. Like I don't have like one-liners, right? Like I don't have like, oh, okay, this person says this thing, you say that, because I'll just kind of walk through the way that I would handle it. So just hit me with the objection. I'll do it.
Yeah. So we'll do. I'm 6 figures a month.
Okay, 6 figure. Like let's run through a scenario. So 6 figure month. What's the reason? Like, why are we on the call?
I would like to go to 7 figures a month, but I don't have a CFO. Like I'm kind of handling the finances myself, and transparently, I don't think I have the funds because the gross revenue of the business just isn't where it needs to be.
Okay. So you're looking to build a team. You're kind of doing a lot by yourself. You're wanting to grow, but the money's not where it needs to be. What have you like? And I'm just like building up like a profile. We'll say, has this hypothetical business owner tried to grow in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I've jumped on Facebook and ran some ads. Didn't get great results there. A lot of my lead generation is word of mouth. We have lots of high ticket offers, like, basically done for you services, but I don't really have much lower ticket, and I don't even know if I should have lower ticket because it doesn't bring me the highest ROI. And if anything, I'm plateauing or struggling because market changes. Who knows? Like I'm in a circus of a position, basically. I don't know what I'm doing.
Cool.
Which is great because I don't, because I'm making it up and I'm
yeah. Okay. Last question that I would or piece of the puzzle. What is like the true motivation? So like obviously building a business, going from 6 to 7 figures, that's cool. But like in your personal life, like why is going from 6 to 7 figures important?
The first thing that came to my mind was like, I want to make my dad proud because he thinks I'm a piece of shit. But that's like the deep motivation.
Yeah, well, dude. And
what I would tell you is I'm very motivated, and if I don't succeed, I feel like a failure. So basically, like, and if I don't succeed, my family doesn't succeed, and nor does my team. So I'm trying to lift the team up with me. But at the core, it's just because my dad never loved me in it. You know how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit because this is all very like important in the way that that we teach to handle objections. Sure. So what I did there, right, is I'm really getting the main pieces of information that I would need to handle any objection. So I'm figuring out, and this is very basic, but if anyone's listening that doesn't understand this, but it's just like, where are you currently, right? Where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's holding you back? What have you tried in the past? And what are the true motivations? Like if you have those 5 pieces of information, you can chunk down into each of those, right? I would ask questions of like, what have you tried in the past? You told me about Facebook. I would dive into Facebook. What specifically did you do in Facebook? Oh, we ran ads. Okay. How long did you do it? Oh, we did it for a month. Okay. So you were expecting a 6-figure a month increase by trying something for a month, right? So it's like, I'm kind of putting them into different like corners of helping them understand that it's not necessarily the thing that you did, it's just the way that you did it, and you didn't give it enough time to actually see success. So by the end of the conversation, it's like they can't give me these objections of like, oh, this isn't going to work. It's like, well, dude, we already talked about why it's not going to work. So those 5 pieces of information, that's all through discovery. So if we go all the way back to your original part of like, okay, I need to think about it, I would say, okay. And this another thing, just to go back one little step, is before I even drop the price, I ask the question on a scale from, so I would say, Ben, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that the plan that we put together, right? The 4-step plan, and our plan would be helping you build out your sales system, or building the foundation, helping you build up your sales systems, lead generation and scale, right? Those would be the 4 steps. So I would ask, where are you on a scale from 1 to 10 that our 4-step plan is going to help you go from 6 to 7 figures in the next 12 months? So give me a hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident in the plan. I'm confident in the case studies you showed me. Like I'm an 8 or a 9, but I don't have the funds to even start the plan.
Got it. Okay. So if we pass that part, so you would give me in that scenario, you would give me a 9. I would say, okay, cool. What's like, like what's holding you back from being a 10? And you would say, well, I just don't know what the price is. Because technically at this point, I wouldn't have given you the price yet because I'm not confident that you are confident in the plan itself. So then, and the reason that's important is because if I would have already dropped the price, I'm like digging myself out of a hole. So I want to make sure that you are 10 out of 10, 100% confident the plan that we're talking about is like you understand that that's going to help you reach those goals. Because if you don't believe that, you're not going to move forward.
Talk about this real quick. I know this is a little higher level, but my listeners have been listening to this podcast for a long time. We've talked pretty high level on this stuff.
Sure.
I've had people say that they open with the price and then they work backwards because they're like, this is what the investment is. Let me show you what you get. So they can kind of basically get the buyer off the call if the investment's just impossible. You're saying what are your thoughts on that? Because it depends. Opposite. Total opposite. Yeah.
It depends on the market for sure. Yeah. Like if you're, if I was even selling like something like at the higher end, I probably wouldn't even do it that way. I get the psychology. The reason that most people will do that is they'll say like, oh, I want to, like you said, right? I want to say the price up front. And if they don't want to move forward, then that's their problem, right?
The sales professional is afraid.
Yeah, well,
they're trying to pre-qualify because they don't want to get to the price objection, so they're going to they're giving their person an out.
Yes, exactly.
Which saves them time. But
at the same, so it's funny you say that because I was literally talking with a one of our clients a couple weeks back, and they were talking about like in their application, they have a question that says, are you financially qualified? Like, or where are you financially to invest into this product, right? And the first option was, I'm not willing to invest in myself. The second question was, I'm willing to invest 10 to 20K or $10,000. The next one, I'm willing to invest 10 to, or there was another option that was like another money-based one. And the problem with that is the psychology is like, oh, I can like disqualify a lot of the people that like aren't qualified. But at the same time, like depending on the offer, is you lose out on so much opportunity because the closer doesn't want to do their job. Like the reason the name closer is a thing is because they are a closer, right? They go in, they ask the questions, and then even if they like don't have the funds or they need to think about it or whatever it is, it's like your job as a closer and a salesperson is to help them figure out, okay, it might not be that you don't have the funds. It might be that you're spending a bunch of money on this other stuff that you shouldn't be spending money on. And this is something that's going to help you actually move forward. So back to your initial question is like, I think that's a lot of times like a cop out of like, I want more quality prospects, but at the same time, it's like you're paying so much more for a qualified call that it might not make sense to disqualify that many people.
I love the not willing to, I'm not willing to invest in myself selection. Yeah. That's hilarious to me. That sounds like kind of like a little jab joke at somebody. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Actually one thing, cause I know we've been talking about this objection for a while, but I think one thing that you mentioned that I did want to add some clarity to is, there's two, when we're getting towards the end of the sales call, or, through the entire thing is I learned this from Cole, is that there's two sales that need to be made on every single call. And the example that he always gives is Russell Brunson with ClickFunnels, right? Is when he's on a stage, right? When he's like selling ClickFunnels, he's not as like, I guess much anymore, but back in the day when ClickFunnels was like the craze back in 2015, 2016, is, when Russell would talk on a stage, is 95% of the time that he's on the stage is he's not selling ClickFunnels. He's selling the idea that ClickFunnels is the solution to their problem, right? And then guess what? It just so happens that, oh, hi, I'm Russell. I have ClickFunnels. Here's the thing that's going to help you win. So those two sales that need to be made are the sale on the method, right? So the method being funnels are the best thing since sliced bread. And then the product, right? The method is one, the product is the other, is the product is going to help them, reach whatever goal they're looking to. So if we tie that back to, the whole 1 out of 10 thing is like, how sold are you on our method or the method being able to help you scale? and then we sell them on the product.
So we haven't talked about price. I'm just like 10 out of 10. Like I'm sold. I don't even know what sliced bread is. This is like the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Okay. So you're 10 out of 10. You understand that this is the right thing. Now's the right time. So then I would say, okay, perfect, Ben. So to work with us over the next 16 weeks is only $12K. And most of our clients, they do it all up front. Or most of our clients do it up front.
And then I respond.
Yeah. Well, see, I was keeping, I don't know if you were testing me, but that's another thing is the first person that talks after the price is dropped loses.
Yeah.
So, you drp the price. I've seen so many because a lot of times the prospects, they have to sit in that.
Yeah. Process.
Right. So they have to process it. Is this for me? Is it not? But so many call reviews that I do is, I'll hear them drop the price and I'm waiting for the salesperson to cut them off. They'll drop the price. They'll say, it's $12K. And then there'll be 2-3 seconds of silence and they'll jump in and they'll be like, so what do you think about that? Right. And then it's they don't let them process and that you immediately, you lose after that. So, yeah. And then I would wait for you to respond. And then obviously you have your objection.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm surprised you say that most of your clients are paying all up on front. I'm embarrassed, but I don't have the funds to pay all up in front. That's not possible.
Okay. That's no worries.
Do I sound like a prospect? I'm acting a little.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, someone's like, okay, I can't pay it all up front. I'd say, okay, gotcha, man. So I guess I'm just curious, back to what we're talking about, you're in a position where you're doing 6 figures a month. Remind me, I had it written down, out of those, 6 figures a month, what's net out of the 6 figures a month?
About a third of that.
Okay. So 33K.
Yeah.
So 33K is left, from there. So I guess I'm just curious, we're looking at 33K and then we have, 12. What's the discrepancy there? I'm just curious why you wouldn't be able to do the 12.
Well, I have I told you earlier I didn't have a COO, but I'll go with that. Well, I have a COO that sometimes looks at the numbers, and I haven't really talked to him about it yet, so I don't really know if I have the fund. I did that on purpose because I didn't give you the real objection the first time. Is my point.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. And that's the point of there's some salespeople. They're you said, well, I don't have the 12. I don't have the 12K. A lot of salespeople will take the cop out and not find the real objection, and will say, well, we can do a payment plan. Right? That's the immediate jump for a lot of people. Is well, you can't do 12. Can you do 3? Right? But I didn't even. Go ahead.
Talk about the psychology, because I kind of did that on purpose because I'm just having fun with you. But why, if you ask me a question, why am I giving you an answer that's untrue when there's a different objection or issue underlying? Why is that even happening in the first place? Do we know?
I mean, I think there's a couple different what's the word, hypotheses behind that. I think some of them are one that I hear all the time is a human instinct is to survive, and we don't want to show all of our cards, right? So that could be one of them. Another side of it is a lot of times as a human is we just want to give the reason that makes us not sound weak. Right? So, and maybe that's just a male dominated thing. I don't know. It could be,
Yeah.
It could be an ego thing, right? I don't want to say oh, I don't have the funds. Well, I guess you kind of said, I don't have the 12K. So I think, I don't think that's the most perfect answer. I think it kind of differs, but that's what I've seen.
Fair enough. And for what it's worth, who cares? I'm a huge fan of human behavior, but at some points I just don't understand what's going on, but we learn how to navigate it. So I mentioned I didn't have the funds. Now, but there's a COO that I basically go to with these kind of things.
Yep. So I'd say, okay, gotcha. So the COO, he's kind of somewhat she or someone that really just makes the decision with you.
Yes, it's my wife.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm just being a dick now.
Yeah. So it's your wife.
Having fun. The CEO is my wife. Yeah.
So and it's interesting because this scenario happens on a lot of calls. It's
It does.
You think it's it's one objection. We think it's a financial objection, but really it turns into a spouse partner, right? And like the way that you handle those two things are very different. So spouse partner is definitely one of the harder ones. So like the way that I would answer it, and I would say, okay, so your wife, I'm just curious, are you guys in the same office right now?
Uh, Not at this time. She works from home. I'm at the office.
Gotcha. And she's working right now.
Yes.
Okay. Would it be possible to I know this might be a little bit forward, but would it be possible just because to get her on a call really quickly, maybe just send her the Zoom link and we can get her on this call,
On a call
like on the on the Zoom call.
right now?
Mhm.
I mean, she's busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so is that 100% no, we can't get her on the call? So,
I
Ben,
think.
I don't mean to burst your bubble, but, if we go back to what we talked about, right, is like you guys are doing, 6 figures a month, right? You guys have been trying to do that for the last 6 to 8 months, like really grinding it out. And, another one of the things that you told me was like you really like you want to do these things so you can build up the business and ultimately make your dad proud, right? So, we're in a situation where either number 1, we can like make the decisions that are going to get us closer to the point where that is something that is actually important to you. Or number 2, we can use an excuse that the wife might be busy. So does your wife maybe have 10 minutes to jump on really quick?
Well, I also probably should bring in the CMO because he'd be the one implementing the new product. How do you like this?
Oh man. Yeah, dude, I would probably I mean, my flesh is like, yo, I would hang up on this guy. But I would depending on the prospect, right? I would probably say something like, dude, is there anybody else that needs to be on this call to make this decision? Because at this point, like it very much so sounds like there's a lot of, it's a lot of excuses to be honest. So that's kind of how I would approach it. But realistically, I would probably just say, okay, gotcha. Can we get the CMO on the call?
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes from there too because we can go on that one for days. But
Yeah.
ultimately, there's based on the conversation that you have with them, if they really aren't going to do it on the call and they have to go to a CMO, they have to because depending on the person you're talking to, right? It's like they could be, uh, they could be super busy, and they could actually need to talk to that person to make sure that they can implement, right? So I would, depending on the person, if I knew, like, if I thought they were 100% in, I knew that we're gonna ghost me, right? I knew that we could like have a conversation. I would schedule a follow up for the next day. If I was like really close with that person and we hit it off and things like that, I would probably push for like a 2K 100% refundable deposit just so that I can get their credit card out. But it's just it's a touchy thing depending on the prospect to do the open wallet.
And I'm sure it depends on like the level of scarcity in the product. If there is a certain amount of slots open and different things like that will be variable factors.
Yeah, I mean that would be something. That's another like sales tactic, right? It's like, well, we only have like one spot available. I think you can do that. I usually don't like, even if it is true, I don't like to really talk about it because it seems canned. Unless it's like a one-off promotion that like it truly is like the last spot 100%, I might mention it
No, I agree.
and then just really double down with them and be like, "Hey, this isn't like a scarcity thing. Like legitimately I can pull up our client Slack channel right now is we only have availability to bring on one." And that could maybe help them push them over the edge.
No, I using a tactic to create a false narrative is something I never promote.
Yeah.
I do promote though having actual limitations
Yeah.
because then it's actually limited. Like someone like me, I don't work with 500 people. Now,
Mm.
granted, if 500 people wanted to hire me, I'd probably build a team and then end up working with 500 people. But we'll see. We'll see what happens then. But
Yeah.
so I didn't know I was going to take the conversation here.
No, dude, it's been fun.
I appreciate you kind of like riding the carpet with me, man, as we start to close out. But I want to give the audience an integration assignment, and we'll do that in a second.
Sure.
But I want to make sure I'm like promoting and supporting you properly, and I'm getting the help that I need. So, like, What should I do to continue to support you, learn more, dive deeper? You tell me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is, we're looking to partner with businesses that are actively looking to scale. Like I said, I mostly focus on the content side. So, I think probably the easiest way would be just to message me on Instagram. So Aaron makes content is my name on Instagram. And I make a lot of content there, a lot, giving really away a lot of what some of the paid stuff that we talk about. And that's probably the easiest way to connect. And anyone that's interested can go there.
The show notes, guys, and seriously, use the show notes. Like, this show is not possible without kick-ass guests. So love on the guests in the show notes, not just Aaron, but all guests. But it really is great content. Like, between your content and this conversation, we're giving away so much for free that it's almost like nauseating because your paid stuff's probably unrealistically good.
Yeah.
I like integration assignments because it's like, we had a fun conversation. We kind of dicked around. I was a pain in your ass. Other than being like infotainment and maybe a little entertaining for the listener, like, what can they take out of this? Like, if they were to turn this podcast off and go implement a 3-step process, or maybe just step 0 just to get started, like, what should they do next?
Yeah, super easy. So, back to what we're talking about of like utilizing social, generating conversations, getting people on sales calls is the easiest thing is understanding that doesn't matter. Like, and this obviously the contingency is like you're at least somewhat active on social media, right? More specifically Instagram. So I've seen, we'll do this at like, some of our events sometimes, and we're like, hey, here's an assignment, go do this. And people are like, I just booked 7 sales calls. I just booked, 2 sales calls. I just got a ton of people coming to my DMs. So, step number 1 would be open up your Instagram app and create an Instagram story. Just literally like straight to camera, and take the approach of just like inviting people into your world to have a conversation in the DM. So the way that I usually do it is I'll just be like, hey, and sometimes I just do a picture and put text on there, and I'll say, hey, DM me the word, keyword, whatever it is, DM me the word cash, and I'll show you the 3-step process that we use to generate clients, right? And then from there, what happens, you give it a couple hours, and you're going to inevitably get people that send you DMs. Then all you're going to do is that person is interested. So all you need to do is respond to that person and say, hey, John, thanks for sending in the keyword. Great to see you on here. Just curious, what had you interested in insert thing? So what had you interested in wanting to make more money? What had you interested in remote closing? What had you interested in wanting to lose weight, right? They respond, and a lot of times they respond with basically their whole life story. They're like, if it's a weight loss example, it's like, I've weighed this amount for this amount of time. My motivation is this, whatever. And then based on their conversation, back to what we were talking about earlier, is you'd say a lot of times they give you all the answers, and all you need to figure out is where are they now? Where do they want to be? What's holding them back? Once you have those 3 pieces of information, you can make the decision if this is a good client for you. The answer is yes. Then you just say, hey, this would be a lot to type out. When do you have 5 to 10 minutes to jump on a quick conversation? And then that leads to like a quick disqualifying call. You can have a quick conversation with them. You can either, bring that into like a full-on sales call, or you can use that just to disqualify a little bit more and then set the call in. That's how we've been able to do, multiple 6 figures a month just from that tactic.
And we can just do it with our phone. We don't have to be videographers, professional marketers. We can just get started with exactly what you just said.
Yep. There you go.
One thing that came to mind, this is the last question, I promise, but part of what got my attention is I have a SpeakPipe link on my website where you can leave me a voicemail. And you're one of like the only people that actually use that.
I would expect more people.
People fill out forms. I get bots. I get direct emails. I don't know where they got it, but you actually sent me a voicemail prior to ever meeting me. Like, why did you do that? Why was that a strategy you chose to send me a voice message?
Yeah, I think for me is I've always like voice and video and like all that stuff has always been like my bread and butter. And anytime I'm connecting with someone on Instagram, on Facebook, or any of the platforms that allow voice messages, is I always start with a voice message. And I think the little secret psychology behind that is, people get emails all the time, they get DMs all the time, but in a world of like just automation and all that kind of stuff is like people just assume it to be automated, right? They just don't think that anything's, real anymore. So when I get something in my inbox where it just says, John Smith sent you a voice message, it just like automatically jogs that curiosity of like, what did they say?
Mm-hmm.
And then you listen to it, it adds, a voice to the name, and adds a personality into it. And it just seems more personal. So, but yeah, yours was the first that I ever saw that. So, I told you that we haven't implemented it yet.
Yeah.
But I definitely plan to, because it adds so much more to it. And I think the other person taking the initiative and like putting the work into sending that, I think is super. It just shows that they're not just copying and pasting a bunch of messages.
You got my attention. I knew it was you. It was not an AI. I could tell by the tonality and the things that you said that it was
for
legit.
what you know.
Yeah. Oh, whoa. Well, listen, I'm going to keep supporting you. I'll let you go, but show notes, y'all. Support our boy Aaron, man. Thanks for coming on the show. It's been fun.
Appreciate it, man.